Donald Trump's Department of Justice just made a stunning admission during a disastrous press conference. First, regarding a $10 billion settlement that Donald Trump is trying to extract from your taxpayer dollars to pay himself, based on my opinion of the most frivolous lawsuit ever. When Trump's DOJ was confronted with that information in front of the world, I'll show you in a moment what happened. And then when they were asked about the policy of apparently destroying records and no longer following the Presidential Records Act, which requires that the executive branch maintain and keep presidential records because they actually belong to we the people, yet another stunning admission is made. You're going to see Trump's DOJ normalize this authoritarianism here, and I think we need to call it out. So first, let me show you Donald Trump's acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, as he tries to audition to become the full-time Attorney General, not just the acting. Here he says, yeah, you know, it's a $10 billion lawsuit, but these are complicated matters that happen all of the time, perfectly normal DOJ things to effectuate settlements with your taxpayer dollars with Donald Trump directly so he can get paid $10 billion while he whines and complains about emotional distress, claiming that there's some data breach that affected massive amounts of people regarding tax returns. But Donald Trump is so emotionally traumatized, such a weak and feeble person, that this is what the DOJ is doing. So pathetic. Let's play the first clip.
Let's just say about it beyond that.
Yeah. Do you want to weigh in on that?
The president has this pending billion-dollar lawsuit against the IRS. He sort of said that this is like he's negotiating with himself. How can you assure, is there anything you can do to assure the American people that taxpayer dollars are being protected? How are those negotiations being handled?
I'm most certainly not going to talk about ongoing litigation, and it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment about that case given its status right now.
Broadly, with the various interests, the competing interests there, right? You have the president in the White House pressing, obviously, for some personal money, and then you have him being your boss. How do you sort of, just broadly speaking, how do you sort of handle that sort of issue?
I mean, the Department of Justice handles complicated decisions involving those type of issues every day, all day, and not just this Department of Justice. Every Department of Justice handles issues like that. I mean, you have decisions that
every day, all day. That's what we do. You know, remember when Obama settled with himself for $10 billion every day, all day? Remember when Biden did it every day, all day, $10 billion summit, George W. Bush, Reagan, Bill Clinton, George H. W. This is just what we do at the DOJ. We work for the president of the United States. He sues the government. And every day we just cut $10 billion checks of taxpayer dollars. I mean, what we're watching there is a criminal cartel in action, and frankly, a stupid one in action as well. Okay, well, clearly you must be preserving documents and records though, right? Because we see you doing things like that. The American people are concerned. So there's something called the Presidential Records Act. But now we're hearing that the Trump regime is going to claim the Presidential Records Act is unconstitutional. So are you telling us you're not going to keep track of any of these records of war crimes or other criminality because you're not following the Presidential Records Act, which every president followed? Come on, say it isn't so, Blanche. Let's play it.
On a recent memo from the Office of Legal Counsel declaring the Presidential Records Act unconstitutional, so saying that presidents no longer need to preserve their documents or return them to the government. What do you say to critics who suggest this basically eliminates transparency and accountability around how a White House operates, especially given how much time you guys are spending investigating the previous administration?
Well, look, I think there is no dispute that this administration in just 14 months has been a lot more transparent than the last administration or in any administration. So if critics are suggesting that somehow we're not being transparent, I don't find that credible in any way, shape, or form. As far as the recent OLC opinion regarding the PRA, that is something that has been heavily litigated in DC and elsewhere. And OLC issuing that is not the first, that's not the first place that you see that it's unconstitutional. I mean, I think there's a lot of places that you can go to think through why that is. The memo speaks for itself, and I don't have much to say about it.
We're so transparent that we're not going to abide by the law that requires presidential transparency over official records. That's how transparent we are. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast. Harry, if you saw that on SNL on Saturday Night Live, you would say, come on, that's, I don't even believe that that could actually be the level of corruption. In our face, they're telling us $10 billion seizure by the president of taxpayer dollars for his feigned emotional distress over some BS case is something that happens every single day, Harry. And then they're so transparent. The law that deals with transparency over records, it's heavily litigated, Harry. They're not going to follow. Now, Harry, you are a top DOJ official at MeidasTouch, and you were the top federal prosecutor in the Western District of Pennsylvania. I want people to know that background when you're about to give your analysis of what you just saw, because what I just saw there, it's not just that it's criminal in my opinion and horrible. It's just a bunch of losers, Harry. It's just a bunch of losers. But break it down for us.
Well, losers with their hands completely in the till, and you had just flagrant combining of self-dealing there, Ben, with corruption. So look, it is totally outlandish, and he knows that. Let's start with this 10 billion figure. This is part of a bigger phenomenon that's going on in front of our eyes. We saw it with Michael Flynn. We're seeing it with Trump's claims potentially for retribution, cases that are supposed to be against the United States. And so the United States plays its role of making sure that taxpayers' money is protected and only given out if it's a sound, rational judgment. Instead, it's like, come on in and bring a wheelbarrow because you're a friend. Cases that are supposed to be Trump versus United States, we know from way back, not just 14 months, there really is no thing when Donald Trump is president as Trump versus United States. Todd Blanche himself has said they are the same thing, and it's the president's duty to make them the same thing. So yeah, it's the idea that in Todd Blanche's world, where there's really only one North Star, what does Trump want? Somehow a suit by him, it's the same as any complicated litigation, really is a joke, but a bad joke. And I just want to say about these numbers thrown around, because he's done it also in this supposed lawsuit he wants to bring for having been prosecuted. The U.S. is a sovereign, and it has sovereign immunity. And it can say where and under what circumstances you have to really turn square corners to sue them. And that means that even if you had a meritorious suit like the ones that Flynn has or that Trump is talking about, it adds up to a small amount. The U.S. hasn't surrendered its sovereign immunity to just say everybody into the pool and take all the money you want. So these figures are that's Trump's kind of bloviation has no tether to what the law would provide, but they talk settlement, right? And the kind of fraud trick here is, we have a serious suit against us. What do you say, guys? You want 10 billion? What do you say we give you 5? Or some ridiculous number that could never happen in the litigation itself. So this is a complete kind of fraud where the DOJ is just lying down and saying, take what you will. Now let's go to the Presidential Records Act. Blanche apparently is talking about some Federalist Society theory that has bounced around for a long time. Never has the Department of Justice says the Presidential Records Act of all things is unconstitutional, and it absolutely means what that questioner said, that as of now, it's not under heavy litigation. There is a lawsuit. one lawsuit where the Department of Justice has come in and said, you can't even entertain this lawsuit. These guys don't have standing. That's where we are at step one. And in the meantime, the OLC memo sets policy the day it issues for the executive branch. So you could have people working overtime with shredders running 24/7, and they would say, well, that's what the law is for us in the executive branch, and unless and until we are told otherwise, and God knows even then, they might try to say emergency, irreparable harm if you don't let us shred everything there is. And that, Ben, it's part and parcel, but in some ways the most kind of direct assault. We've seen many different ways in which this government and this president just want to whitewash history, make it go away. It's one thing to try to dispute accounts or just stand up and tell lies. It's another to say, keep those papers coming, including, say, the Jack Smith Volume 2, whatever they want, to get rid of it. And besides that, it's against the law, and that the OLC memo just says that the Supreme Court 7-2 opinion is just wrong. That's the authority. This is not what democracies do. Democracies preserve their records, have historians go in. The history belongs to the people. This is what totalitarian governments do, and really, when they're fleeing ahead of the mob that is kicking them out, those are the people who want to destroy records and completely manufacture a false account of history. So that second part where you saw Blanche totally flummoxed and stuttering and the like, that is a really dangerous opinion that, as of now, as we talk, is the law of the executive branch.
Harry, I know Pam Bondi rightfully gets a very bad rep, and she's held some humiliating and horrific press conferences. But I want to be clear. If she said those words that he just said, I think that she'd be under a lot more scrutiny and get a lot more attacks. And she said some horrible things. Let's be very clear. And I'm glad that she's gone. It's hard to conceive of a worse press conference than what I just saw in terms of like law and order and what words were coming out of his mouth there. I mean, and what message, Harry, is that sending to rank and file prosecutors across the country who are associated with this DOJ to see the organization you work with led by that? It just must be a gut punch. And the people who work there and some of the career people who just continue to stay because they go, you know what, I'm just going to hang on and do my job head down. I like my job at the DOJ. But Harry, it's like, I just can't imagine waking up and working for an organization where you see the main boss behave like that.
And it's more than that, Ben. First of all, so many have left, and you have huge vacancies, huge personnel problems, and efforts to bring in any warm body. But Todd Blanche has the contempt of career prosecutors because he, unlike Bondi, he came up through the ranks. He knows the system. He knows what it means to do justice without fear or favor. He knows he is dumping on it every single day. And he's doing it, you're right. Now that we see him there, he's got this kind of chin jutting forward, a kind of, come on and just tell me otherwise. Really dismissive, nasty, kind of over the top attitude in these press conferences. Like, who do these reporters think they are? And the lies just don't just drip off him because he knows how the organization is supposed to run. So I'm a career prosecutor if I'm still around there, and I know that this guy is not only talking in Orwellian terms, but he literally converted completely from the job he had, the mission he had, what he understood justice without fear or favor consists of. And you got to think, there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. This department is corrupt top to bottom. And one other thing, if there's any piece of litigation that in any way concerns the interests of Donald Trump. You're the guy who gets on your desk the $10 billion lawsuit that you would normally laugh at. You better not laugh at it, because anyone who does, Blanche has made clear he will show the door. So, yeah, I think I wrote a Substack on this last week, and there are 4 different ways in the 3 weeks that he's really taken it to a lower depth, even than Pam Bondi, possibly trying to, show that he can be tougher or audition for the main job, something I don't think is going to happen, but that's another YouTube. But man, oh man, they combined with his sort of arrogance, I think makes a chilly portrait of leadership for everyone in DOJ who might have been looking for more professional, hands-on guidance.
Harry Litman runs the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, and Talking Feds Substack. Everybody subscribe to those Harry Litman channels. Thanks, Harry.
Hey, thanks, man.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.